So it seems like the consequences of some people's actions are starting to catch up with them as more events and things happen. And it's all to do with the Ironmouse situation. Because if you don't know, obviously, Ironmouse has been facing a lot of hate from many different corners of the internet, and as well as from different communities and things over previous incidents and whatnot. Now, obviously, if you guys remember the last incident, or say the last incident, there's been a couple since then, but one of the big ones that we covered was this interaction between Rakai and Ray and Ironmouse at the Streamer Awards, where obviously it turned into a huge drama because obviously they were like asking her like where she lives and what she looks like in real life and things like that, which of course made her feel quite uncomfortable, right? And then tons of people started going after her for saying that she felt uncomfortable when, you know, you can feel uncomfortable about literally any situation, right? Lots of people were saying that she's behind a screen, so how could she feel uncomfortable if she's behind a screen? But as I pointed out as an example, if I was to threaten you and your family over the phone, well, of course, you're going to feel pretty uncomfortable by that, even if it is behind a screen or behind a, telephone line. So again, I think it is, one of those things where I guess people just don't understand that you can feel uncomfortable behind a screen, and everything like that. But why is this relevant now? Well, recently there was a clip that has been going pretty viral in the sense of the Streamer Games, which is another event. Obviously, well, Streamer Awards is hosted by Cutie Cinderella, but obviously the Streamer Awards is hosted by Ludwig, who is obviously her fiance now. And obviously, yeah, there was an interaction between Ray and CDawg, who obviously CDawg is Ironmouse's very close friend. You guys know he does the cycling charity things and all of this kind of stuff for the Immune Deficiency Foundation, which obviously is something that Ironmouse, does stuff for as well, due to her condition. And yeah, obviously they're very, very close friends, and they stream like all the time together and all of this kind of stuff. So yeah, you could probably tell that maybe CDawg wouldn't be too happy, because you can even see in the clip, he's right there. He saw the whole interaction first person too, right? So he's probably not going to be the most, happy to see Ray at an event, right? But of course, with content creation and things like that, you're always bound to brush, besides people, other people that maybe you don't like, maybe you don't agree with, or things like that, right? Because they get invited to events because of their friends or their popularity or whatever. So you just have to kind of like be nice and just like kind of forget about it, right? And that's essentially kind of what happened here, because obviously they say Ray was offended after Ironmouse's close friend cdawgva brushed him off in the locker room. The moment comes after Ray's previous interaction with Ironmouse at the Stream Awards last year. So you can see this is the clip.
So cool.
Yo, nice to meet you too.
Obviously there's Ray and Connor's there.
Yeah. Oh, what's up, bro?
What's up?
What the fuck you want from me? What?
Hey, are you Ray? So cool.
So yeah, that's the whole clip, right? It really isn't that much. And I think a lot of people have been kind of, going into different parts of this clip, right? Some people saying like, I'm not surprised that he didn't want to interact with him due to the last clip. And I think 100%, right? The amount of drama that came from the last clip and interacting with it, sometimes it is better to just go like, what's up, and just kind of move on and like not even interact with him so much. Now, again, obviously I actually made a post on this, which ended up blowing up. I don't know how that happened. I tweeted this, went to bed, and I woke up and I was like, oh, it's got 1 million views now. That's crazy. They say it's always like there's consequences to how you act online. I don't blame CDawg for ignoring him. Doesn't want another clip, so just avoids it altogether. Ray shouldn't have been an idiot. Not that he's ever going to learn. So yeah, obviously I should have probably worded that better. He didn't ignore him. He did say, obviously, what's up. So yeah, obviously that is true. He didn't ignore him. He did acknowledge him, right? It's not like he just like walked past and said nothing. But of course, it was a very just like kind of brush off. Like he just like didn't want to interact with him any further than just a what's up, right? Because usually whenever it comes to streamers and someone says what's up, it's like, hey, do you want to stand here on camera with me for the next 5 minutes and talk or whatever, right? That's usually how it goes. But obviously CDawg was having none of that, and he's like, what's up, just walked off. But also as well, I do think there is this thing of not everybody wants to be on camera. Not everybody wants to talk. Not everybody wants to be friends. Not everybody wants to kind of interact with you. And I think it is quite funny, the kind of reaction that Ray had to what was a pretty normal, situation, right? He said what's up back. He didn't like completely ignore him. And for some reason, even though you know, he just walked past. He did reply. He did say what's up. He somehow got like this, right?
What the fuck you want from me?
Like he thought like he had some kind of problem or something like that, which of course, you know, maybe there is due to the previous situations that we know the context of, but it seems like, you know, he was trying to be as nice as he could. He was trying to be, you know, fair and just be like, yo, what's up? And just kind of like moving on. But for some reason, obviously Ray had to react like that, right? Again, pretty normal interaction, but obviously as a lot of people point out, saying Ray getting offended over a simple brush off shows peak streamer ego. Which, yeah, I think is 100% true, right? Not everybody wants to stop and talk to Ray. Like, let's be real, right? No matter how popular you are, not every single celebrity, not every single streamer, not every single content creator, not everybody wants to stop and say hi to you, right? Regardless of any previous situations, I think to think that everybody wants to stop and greet you and say, oh my god, you're so amazing, is just so stupid, right? Because, again, you're not that guy, right? I know obviously Ray is a big streamer and he has a big audience, right? But as I said, you know, some people don't want to talk to him, and especially they don't want to talk to him if there has been previous situations where he is pretty, you know, heavily affected his close friend, right? You know, well, I say not her like specifically, but, you know, heavily affected things going on around her and caused some pretty unnecessary drama, especially with some of the stuff that he said afterwards as well, right? You know, after the streamer awards and kind of making fun of it and things like that, saying he wasn't going to apologize and all of this kind of stuff. You know, it's almost like there is consequences to what you say. It's almost like there is like consequences to how you act. And, you know, if you are weird, then people aren't going to want to talk to you, right? And I think that's exactly what has happened here, right? You know, I know that CDawg did respond to him, but let's be real. A lot of the time, usually people would stop and have a little chat or whatever, right? Just for like a couple of seconds or so. But CDawg was having none of that, and he just kind of brushed him off and just walked off. And I'm pretty certain that is because, you know, either A, he just didn't want to get another clip, which of course I think, to be honest, it did end up working because he did just get another clip from brushing him off. But, you know, it's, you know, it makes him look better in the clip though, right? I definitely think this makes him look better. And there's like less of a chance of, you know, some people trying to misconstrue it if they had like an actual conversation or something like that. And yeah, obviously it's either due to not wanting to get a clip, it's either due to obviously the Ironmouse situation and just like not very happy about what happened and how he reacted and responded to that one. And yeah, I mean, it could also be a couple of other reasons as well. But again, not many people, you know, want to interact with people who act like that, right? And I'm sure there's probably other streamers as well who don't want to interact with him. And I'm sure there's other streamers who don't want to interact with streamers that aren't Ray either, right? I feel like there's many streamers out there that might have a problem with another streamer for whatever reason, right? They might have just fell out over, I don't know, a league game or something like that. And they don't want to talk to each other as much, right? So there is like also other weird, you know, dynamics and stuff that goes on at these events because there's a lot of people there. There's a lot of content creators and it does tend to get pretty filled up, right? But yeah, I mean, this was a pretty interesting situation. I just kind of wanted to cover it because again, it does just kind of show you, you know, there is always going to be, you know, consequences for this stuff, right? And I know that Ray isn't going to learn this. I know that he isn't going to understand that, you know, what he did was, you know, wrong, and you know that this situation, you know, could have been this future situation when he could avoid it, where he brushed him off, could have been avoided, because, you know, he didn't have to say all of that stuff he did after the fact of the situation and things like that. He could have just said sorry or whatever and just moved on. But again, it was pretty crazy, right? But yeah, as I said, it's always quite funny to see some kind of karma coming back towards these streamers who tend to be horrible, especially towards VTubers, right? Because obviously VTubers are growing exponentially whenever it comes to Twitch. So yeah, hopefully more of this happens because again, you know, it just shows that if you're not a very nice person, well, nobody's going to want to interact with you, right? And that's kind of the bottom line of that. So yeah, that's what I got for this video. If you guys did enjoy it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, go to GameStop, use my code Kazo, get 10% off. Again, they've got a ton of really cool stuff over there. Definitely recommend checking it out. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. That's all. See ya.